another day. Hanging at the quick stop, grab a Snuffy and a Twix, I'm on my way. Crossing lady stops me, brings the lecture now, and the hell's your head? My mind can't help but feel ya, the Alice in the finger, and I ran along with nothing more to say. It's alright, really tight, it's just another day.
What is going on, everybody? Thank you for joining us tonight. Education Group 101. My name is Erik Youngs. You might know me as the Voodoo Chef, but what you may not know is I am an educator as well. Dabsy, what is going on?
Hello. Not much. I'm happy to be back.
Oh, my God. Such an awesome night and an awesome day. Awesome day. It's been a long day. That's what happens when your day starts at 4:30. But, you know, I love sitting here talking education. It's something we haven't done. And, before we get into today's topic of building culture, I always come in and I want to say, what's going on, booties? And, that's really not what this is about. And, it's funny. A lot of people don't realize that during the day for the past 25 years, I've been hanging out in classrooms at the high school level, now at the college level, just as our friend, professional educator of an A school, Bill Workman, would say, educating the youth of America. And, Dabsy, you lived quite a few roles with me in that. First, as a student. Second, as an assistant teacher. And now, not only are you on the board of directors of our foundation, you are hands-on with the foundation. And I'm just happy that we have shared time and in so many different arenas and have been able to help so many people. So thanks for continuing that and hanging on.
I think it's fitting that I'm here with you on this version of the podcast. I'm definitely not rock and roll. So I think there's many sides to Erik Youngs, and I fit more on this side. And I'm okay with that.
It's funny. Somebody once in one of the classes, they were doing lessons on, periods of time, and someone had to write a paper on a modern day Renaissance man. And one of the culinary students wrote a paper on me as a modern day Renaissance man, and I was so stoked. Just that they felt of me enough to write about me.
Yeah.
But you're right. So many different versions and pieces of who we are that we put out there. But at the end of the day, all for the same purpose, to educate people and help people, and that's what we do. So
very true.
I'm happy that you're here with me. If you're missing Big Eddie C, hey, he will be back next week with the Voodoo Chef podcast, like we do, and something, all of our streamers, you may not know, if you miss a episode, if you miss Voodoo Chef podcast, you miss Let's Get to the Bottom of This, log on to iTunes. What are the other ones? Streamcast, Google Play, wherever you download your podcasts. Log on, make sure you subscribe to our podcasts. Leave some comments, only if they're good. And let us know, topics you'd like to hear us talk about on any of the podcasts right here on this one, anything ever having to do with education. And we'd be happy to tackle that and take it on. But remember, Education Group 101 is about evoking thought and getting your input. And that's what we want. This is only as impactful as the conversation that we have take place and the synergistic lessons that we get out of it. So don't hesitate to hit that chat bar. If you are listening to this on iTunes, it does stream live the first Tuesday of every month on the Voodoo Chef Facebook page, the Erik Youngs Facebook page, and our YouTube channel, which is just simply Voodoo Chef. So jump in. Dabsy, how tough was this week's topic for you? Did it evoke a lot of thoughts? I hope
it did. I feel like I have a personal connection to it. I feel like it's a chunk of my heart that's never going to go away. And now I look at education a little differently being a mom. And currently we're in a situation where I'm a homeschool kindergarten mom. So that was interesting to take on this topic there as well. I'm looking forward to getting our kiddos into public schools next year. And, some of the topics that we're going over, I really hope that they're coming across educators in their future that are going to be thinking about these topics.
Well, I'm going to talk about the topic today. And then I really, you're unique in the areas in which you have lived in this arena, but also the fact that how do I put it? You didn't come from public school your entire life. Was I your first public school experience? You were charter school?
No, I started with public school for elementary, and then during middle school, I was in a charter school population, so it was much smaller teacher to student ratio, and then I went back to public school, traditional public school for high school. So I did have some experience early on elementary school, but really I think my first memories that I have of teachers that have stuck with me are middle school and definitely into high school. Because really you really start finding your identity in high school and who you are. So I think you look for that in those classes.
Well, you're exactly right. And I feel just from our experience, and we got to give a big shout out to my friend Candy Fritcher just came in the room. Tandy is a rock star of a teacher, and we appreciate you joining us here today. If you're watching and you're watching on the live streams, go ahead and hit that share button. This is Education Group 101 today. I am Erik Youngs, the Voodoo Chef, chef educator, hanging out with Christine Dabs Strombaum. That's why I call her Dabsy. And I've known Dabsy, I think since she was about 14, as a student, then as an assistant teacher, and now as one of the board members of the Voodoo Chef Foundation and a hands-on board member. So thank you for that. Dabsy, I really believe not only coming to high school as a 14-year-old student from that charter school, I believe that was culture shock. But then you run into the 6 foot, 300-pound, bald, tattooed guy that likes to use a lot of profanities. Not likes to, just
it just happens.
Big shock, and I'm trying to not say the word culture because I want to talk about culture in a more different way.
Right.
So as we go through this, I'd love for you to come back and talk about it from your perspective of actually sitting in the room. And Spidey, we're glad you're checking in too. Nothing but a rock star there. So let's just dive right in because this is such a big topic and it's really hard to grasp and get your hands on. And when we talk about the success of the students in the classes that I've been happy enough to sit in along with them, I think the culture is the key. It's nothing more than the culture that we build. And so when we think about this and we start to take a look at it, we have to first think what culture is. If you simply pulled up the dictionary definition, it's a set of values, beliefs, systems, symbols, languages, tools, and technology, etc., shared by a group of people. So when we talk about our classrooms, we can get an understanding of what we're talking about, but really hard to hone in on it with just that. So I started to dig a little deeper. And when we continued to pull up culture to try and really figure out how to explain it and what it is, I started thinking back to history class. And not just when I was in history class, because God knows I was an amazing student in history. I did very well in school, but history is not my bag. But when you think of history and we think of the cultures of the world and we think how they were developed, it's through the diaspora of people and people migration and bringing the sets of values that they had before them two new areas with different groups of people, and that's all fine and dandy. But we're really not talking about things like the dispersion of the Jews from Israel or the influence of the French on New Orleans. That's not what we're talking about. So I looked even deeper, and I started thinking about the culture of business, because this is my world. I grew up in restaurants, and I started thinking about the different cultures of the places I worked. And, a business doesn't necessarily outwardly define their culture to their clientele. They may build a culture within their employee base, but I think now we're starting to get somewhere. Unless you're Olive Garden, then you outwardly say, when you're here, your family. You're not, but we understand. And as patrons, we might use that to drive where we go. But how the hell do we create culture in the classroom? Let's go back to the people movement thing. When we talk about people movement, we don't really choose who's coming into our classroom. We get a diverse group of students, different religious beliefs, socioeconomic status, their own set of customs, values, morals, languages, all that thrown into the mix. We don't get to say, yes, we're going to just build it for this group. We don't have a defined set of people. We already have groups coming in with their own values and beliefs. And then to top it all off, they're all on different learning levels.
Yes.
They're all on different learning levels. And for all you teachers out there who are going to start to get on the bandwagon of, well, if we could fix that, and, had I not been passed up this student, guess what? Reevaluate why you're in this business, because a teacher should want to teach anybody. And it doesn't matter what level they come to us at, we should open and welcome them all with open arms. So, when we think about all that people movement, we really don't have a choice. We really don't have a choice. So we flash back and start looking at it from the business aspect. Well, we're not setting a culture and an atmosphere to try and attract these people. We don't get to like, hey, this is our target market. This is who we're looking to attract. And, maybe you're looking to attract 8th graders or you're a math teacher. Yeah, absolutely. That's easy. But we still have all those other pieces of the puzzle that we just talked about. So how does it start? For students, we get who we get, and we don't have to worry about them coming back tomorrow, because they're coming back tomorrow. They are our customers. So where do we start to build culture? What is it? How is it? What does it look like? How do we start to define it? I truly believe that it starts with that leader in the classroom. And we can go back and talk about the principal, and they're going to develop the culture of the school, and that should transcend down in. It should play a part. But when you're in your classroom and you're teaching your curriculum, your topic, whatever it is that may be, it needs to start with you. So when we started doing this, and I say we a lot, but let me tell you, when I started in 1997, I truly felt like I was on an island all by myself, and like most other teachers, drinking from that proverbial fire hose on day one. But now where we're at, it truly is a team that creates and maintains this culture. But we've been there. We sat there by ourselves and had to put it together. So when we think of this and we talk about where does it begin, I think the first thing we should start with is, what is our mission? And I don't mean the school district you work for's mission or the school's regurgitated version of that mission. What is your mission in your classroom for your customers, your students? And I think if we can build that mission, and don't confuse that with your teaching philosophy, which is some ideology that's on a piece of paper that you put on your resume. That's totally different. What is your mission? Why did you get into this business? And how are you going to deliver that mission to your students, your customers? If you start there, it should be really easy. It should just be a downward swing. Because once we get to that, we can start evaluating the values and beliefs and language and every single one of our career pathways, our traditional courses. We all have our own lexicon and our own language,
Right.
which are all part of building that culture. We have to decide how we're going to deliver it.
Yeah. And I think not
Go ahead,
to
Dad.
Yeah, not to interject too much, but as an
No.
observer of education, especially the last 2 years with the pandemic, I think a lot of teachers or educators have had that moment of reflection, like, why did I become a teacher and why am I still teaching? And perhaps this could be a turning point of changing that culture in your classroom to keep
Absolutely.
you happy and to keep your students happy. So if it's something that you haven't thought about before, I hope this messaging sinks in.
And you know what? This is the perfect time to reset. We're at the end of a calendar year. Hopefully, we're moving through and past this pandemic and into more of a normalcy that we may have been used to prior to. I don't think we're ever going back, but
Right.
100%. But it is that time of turn, and if we go back to what we were talking about, if we look at it from the standpoint of that historical, where do we get these people? Who are these people? And then we take it from that business standpoint. How do we create a mission that's going to help us deliver what we need and really hone in on what that is to our kids? We're at a point now where we say, well, where do the two meet? Because we can't say it's a business and we just live by those steadfast black and white rules of a business, which there really are no black and white rules. So how do we blend the two to best serve our student? And that's where I'd like to say your individuality comes into play. But if we all were to just follow some basic pieces of the puzzle and use our own personality to bring that out, I think you would find it to be an easy win. First and foremost, just to go back to that business, I'm not going to say the customer's always right, but the customer's always the customer. And in this case, the customer is our student. And we have to make sure that we take care of our customers. Rule number one. Rule number two, you have to have those defined set of values. In our, I'm going to say classroom, you might say, well, you teach culinary, it's real easy. I'm going to tell you it's really not. We have to balance classroom with business, business with classroom, have the two intertwined, have the quote unquote customers. And now I'm talking about the customers of the restaurant who come in and help us teach, actually believe their customers, have our students believe their customers. But at the end of the day, they're really just a teaching tool, whole different subject. It's a difficult balance, but we have to we have to define the values. And in our world, we fall upon the professional expectations of our industry. So, I mean, little things like dress, language, all the things that tie into culture, we kind of have predetermined for us. And I think in our world, my classroom, that's where culture is really established from day one. We treat them like industry professionals from the gate, from the expectation of a morning lineup in your uniform, going over the day's events, much like we would in a restaurant, all the way through carrying out to the exit, and not wavering. Going back to Gladwell, the smallest things make the biggest difference. If we can implement those and do it with fidelity, it creates a different feeling and atmosphere. So when we set those values, easy peasy. But then we have to make sure we bring in that word authentic. I kind of said it a minute ago. When we talk about authenticity, it's a lot bigger than we say. I know Dabsy's like, shit, I sat through this for years, and here we are rambling again. I promise we're almost at the end. When we hit that authenticity, we have to think the authenticity of the curriculum, which, watch this, my sounding board is going to be really happy, which means making sure people understand the why, and bringing that authenticity and being able to help them relate to what we're teaching and why, but also ourselves. We have to be authentic in our delivery and our approach. If you're not, you're going to fail. Just real simple. Then after that, we have to listen. We have to listen to our peers, listen to our industry, our subject matter, make sure we're staying up to date with trends or updates or new methods, best practices, constantly being open to delivery. And then most importantly, listen to our customer base. Listen directly, listen indirectly, be observant. And this may sound like something new, this may not sound like something new. And I'm just going to pose the question. When's the last time you asked your student, what have you learned in the past week? Not, I taught this. Do you understand? What have you learned in the past week? I'm going to tell you, I had that conversation with 50% of my student population today. And that gives us a good gauge of where we're at and what we have to do. We have to learn from our mistakes. When they tell us they didn't learn anything, or when they're up on the whiteboard putting a little tally mark every time you say a curse word, don't just look at the action. Understand the why and understand what's truly being said. Listen, learn from that, and grow. And then I think what's most important, and I've said that probably a million times because they're all most important, we have to create that safe environment. Now, we got a lot of friends listening out there who might say, oh, safe. I don't mean safe like nobody's going to bust down the door. I don't mean safe like we're not going to get robbed. I mean safe in knowing that it's okay to fail. Safe in knowing that it's okay to express yourself. And safe in knowing that it's not just okay with me, it's okay with everybody in the room. Because when that trust in the classroom is built, education possibilities are endless. Now, Dabsy, watch this. I kept that under 20 minutes, whether you believe that or not.
It was really good. I only interjected once. It was great.
But I kept that less than 20 minutes, which I don't think I've ever done in the classroom. And if you're out there going, hey, are we going to get notes on this? Yeah, go to where you download your podcasts and subscribe. But Dabsy, when you think of building that culture in the classroom, people say, Erik, you do this so effortlessly. Sometimes it's fun to just sit back and watch. And I'm so flattered by that. But we have to figure out how to define the parameters and share them so that we can all try to create better environments. I'm going to say for our students, but ultimately for ourselves as educators, because we want our students to learn, and we have to create that environment and give them those opportunities. And that makes it more enjoyable and fun for us. So I would love your take, going all the way back to 14-year-old Dabsy.
Yeah.
And talk about the feelings you felt as a student, because you were kind of at the pinnacle of our high school growth and creating everything we did. And then we'll move on from there. So let's do student first.
All right. Yeah.
What do you think?
Okay, so starting way back when I graduated, just for reference, I graduated in 2008. He never remembers. That's okay.
Well, I've been doing this 25 years.
I know. That's
I've got a graduation in May, And I've already told them, just so you know, when you graduated with Dabsy, you graduated with Clayton, you graduated with, they're all the same.
That's okay. That's okay. I'll take it. So I entered Chamberlain High School. I was 13, 14. I'm a young entering ninth grader. And I went through a whole year really not knowing what I wanted to do. I tried different electives. As a teenager, you're trying to find your friend group and your identity and who your authentic self was. And I think I went to one of the CTE days, and culinary was there. And at the time, Food Network was just starting to be so stinking cool. That I thought, oh yeah, I want to like make cupcakes. I want to be a wedding planner. I want to do all these things that people are doing on Food Network. And that was originally what drew me to the culinary program at our high school. So I started my sophomore year, and little did I know that I would find a lot of myself there. And I think a lot of kids do that, whether it's in sports or a club or they're in band or drama or yearbook. You kind of find a group that you fit with. For my husband, he was really into science, so he gravitated towards science, and ROTC, that was his home. For me, culinary ended up being my home for the next 3 years of high school. And we were on block scheduling then. So you would spend several hours a day with the same people, which was pretty cool. And it's interesting to hear you talk about teaching philosophies now that I'm in my 30s, because in the moment, students aren't thinking about that. I'm just processing this as he's super cool, he's authentic, I want to find my authentic self, and I'm not asking like how the sausage is being made. It's just happening. It's my life.
For the record, Dabsy, I keep finding myself every day. I want to find my authentic self too. And it happens with reflection, and it happens daily. And you ready for this little nugget? Everybody says we change as we get older. We don't. We grow closer to our authentic self.
I like it.
I mean, it's a constant growth to the person you've always been. And it's amazing. And thank you for saying all those nice things. But you know, Matt Bartholomew said something one time as well. Matt Bartholomew was one of our students who now runs Chamberlain that I left. He said one day, I don't like seeing behind the curtain, because he wanted all those happy memories of being a student. And that's part of creating that safe feeling where it's okay for you to learn.
Yep, it's okay to learn. It's okay to try different things. I mean, I definitely tried being in the kitchen. Didn't work for me. And that's okay. I wasn't that great at making cupcakes, and that's fine.
Well, that sucks, because Spider said he wants cupcakes, and I said me too.
Yeah. So I was able to try different things out, and I'm an only child. I grew up as an only child, and coming from a smaller school setting into, at the time, I think Chamberlain had definitely over 2,000 students at the time. So you're a small fish in a big ocean. And I was really shy. I never thought I'd learn public speaking skills or how to be a silent leader, which I was a lot towards my junior and senior year, or be on competition teams, or running to be like none of that stuff. I imagined
state officer. Keep.
Yeah, I never imagined
becoming a state officer.
Yeah, and believe it or not, I didn't peak in high school. No. So those were things that educators saw the potential in me, pushed me in the right direction, and I found it for myself, and that was really cool. And I took that with me to college, and that professionalism to college. And that's what brought me back as an assistant teacher, and to help see, like, breaking down Oz and seeing what was behind the curtain. That was cool to help students that were not that much younger than me, but to see them on their journey. And I hope to see my own kids through their journey as well, to find their authentic self. But for me, that was my experience as a student. CTE was my home. That's what I lettered in. I wasn't super athletic, still not super athletic.
But you're saying a lot of amazing things, and I don't know that you realize it. You said you found your home.
Yeah.
And that's, as an educator, part of what we got to do as well. We have to, I love talking to some of my peers, and they say we're just a dumping ground. You know, we need to not look at it like that, and we need to understand that we need to look at the students that enter our room as, I hate to say this, our job. I mean, Dabsy, when you entered my class that first day, you were my job. But because this is my passion, it becomes something more. And we had people in our classroom that they were never going to stay in culinary. They didn't want to be there in the first place. But it's our job to help them find out where they do want to be. We need to find out where they want to be so that they will be successful. And, you found a home. And we need to help people who don't know where their home is find their home. And part of what we're doing in that K-12 world is just that. They might walk in our room for a year and try it out and try it on for size and say, this is what no, I don't. But it's our job to not only, well, this isn't where you want to be, get out. And I've said get out to a lot of people as I'm holding their hand, helping them find a new home. And that's important. And then you started touching on what I wanted to talk about next. You came back behind the curtain. So we had the opportunity to be part of a very large grant from the Department of Ed through the Obama administration. We were very fortunate to be selected as one of 2 schools participating in this cross-curricular study. We were the East Coast school. There was a West Coast school, and it was going to pull me out of the classroom for sometimes half a day, sometimes a full day. And so they were like, we're going to bring a teacher in. We need to bring somebody who knows the program. So what do? We get the approval to hire an assistant teacher, and we bring in Christine Dabbs. And you were right. You were very close in age. And it's something we probably left out in that building culture. You have to be relevant. You have to be relevant. I don't care. I had a kid. Yeah. Made it real easy to watch Hannah Montana when she was cool. Made it real easy to watch High School Musical when that was cool. You have to be relevant. I don't care if you're a 34-year-old man watching High School Musical, being able to throw Troy quotes. You gotta do it. You got to be relevant and stay relevant. And when you're not, you bring in young bloods to help you out. So you came in and you were someone who was entrusted to carry on the culture.
Yeah.
As I would go out and work at other schools or fly to San Francisco with a team that I still call some of my best mentors in education. Sue Bloom, you're a rock star. How hard was it to make that transition from being as a student to sliding up into the instructor role? And I'm so excited to hear this answer. Hey, John D, how are you? Thanks for checking in. Read the text stream there. Spider and I want cupcakes.
Yeah, well, we'll work on it. I've been working 20 years on it.
John D from John D Sweet Creations.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, John D. I was telling her to read the text.
Good.
Yeah,
okay, good.
Classroom. Couldn't have been 2, 3, 4 years. You're back as assistant teacher, right?
Yeah, I was. I think 2 or 3 years. And my senior year when I was in the program, I took a leadership role with sophomores and juniors. So I think that gave me some good experience because we were working a restaurant, during lunch hours. So I was able to pass my knowledge on to the current juniors and seniors. And that was the model that we were using during service time. So that was a pretty easy transition. I think for me, the most challenging part of it was helping with lessons. And I could talk all day in front of everybody. It doesn't mean they're learning something. So that was a big deal, how to really rope someone in if the topic that we're talking about that day maybe isn't relatable or isn't as exciting to a teenager, and how to make that relevant with a bunch of 16, 17-year-olds who think they know everything. And I probably thought I knew everything in college too, but I knew that.
But Debsy, you're saying everything that I would hope you would say.
Oh, good.
And we've never had these conversations, and
No, I don't think we have.
So you came back as a teacher, and you said, well, as a senior, and that's so important. As a senior, you are empowered to not just be another student. You are empowered to take on a role and live that role and help in the education, which is one of the lessons we got coming up, maybe on the next podcast, student-centered learning. But you just naturally said, as a senior, I had this and that. And so when I came back, that part was an easy transition. As you think back, we could trace your role. I mean, we could just trace that lineage, if you would, from all the way back to Hillsborough High School, all the way up to 2017, Tatiana. So we could trace that lineage. But I think you would agree we could trace it in the dining room. We could trace it in the kitchen. We could trace it through all these different aspects where not just Dabsy had that empowerment, but everybody had their own sense of empowerment, where everybody was given their own boost, their own individualized piece of the puzzle, and met them at their level to bring them to that final place, which again is part of that culture, and meeting them where they're at and being able to set that high level of expectation and helping them understand that it is achievable because of that safe learning environment. I mean, God, I could do this all day. I get so excited, and there's some people probably sitting out there going, "Come on, dude."
It's really interesting with CTE, and not just to talk about CTE, but it's interesting for us because you do get students from all different backgrounds, and you have someone who's an athlete.
You get that in math too.
You do get it in math, and then
you get it in English.
We're all coming together because we possibly have food in common. So there's one common thing, maybe.
We don't have to take this. We
Right.
have to take math.
Right.
So
And maybe that's a starting point for us. But it became so much more than that. And people that you wouldn't necessarily cross paths with in high school or develop a relationship past just being in the same classroom, you develop in a situation like that because you're leaning on each other, and someone may be more creative, so they're taking on a more creative role. I may be more analytic. I'm taking on that kind of a role in a team. And that team building side of it and taking that into other classes, other spaces in the high school with those same people is really exciting. And that was cool for me too.
Absolutely. When we, it's kind of like when you talk about, I really, really, really am not a fan of this movie, and you can slash me, at me, do whatever you want. But when you take the movie, The Breakfast Club, you've got detention where you've got these different students from different cliques coming together.
Yeah.
And they end up working through it all to form a bond. That's kind of like our world in culinary, or in any, we'll go back to the CTE, like you said, because you have all these different aspects of people, which you have in math class. But what you were talking about is we had our cheerleader, we had our jock, we had our student government people, we had our ROTC, we had all the collectives in our group. And solving
real world problems and not just problems on a piece of paper.
Oh, true that. And God, we could do so many shout outs here, but this isn't about propping all of our former students. You guys are all rock stars. But it's more so maybe hopefully helping one educator, two educator, anybody take a little nugget from here and apply it to your classroom so you can promote and start pushing at your level. And I hope we're doing that for you at some point. And remember, that chat bar is there for you to jump in this conversation at any time. So Debs, now let's flash forward to what we're doing today.
Right.
You don't have to be a classroom teacher You don't have to be in that building to make a difference and educate people and build that culture. And we keep saying build that culture. If I hear one teacher say we have to develop a culture of learning, you're a fucking teacher. That should be number one. Figure out how you're going to deliver it and make it happen. So now we're outside the classroom, and now you're on a different team with us, and you're part of the Voodoo Chef Foundation, and we do all kinds of just crazy wackadoo stuff to hopefully impact kids. And it all stems from, the things we did in the classroom, we do in the classroom. Just last week, we have a team. We have a team of people, and the team changes. Spider's a stalwart on our team. We probably couldn't do what we do without having him hang out with us and, really bail us out on some things. But, you and I have conversations throughout the week, and we kind of implement some of these crazy ideas and drive students to be successful. And we're not even in their presence. We're building this culture of learning kind of like through the web and conversation and word of mouth. And you're in North Carolina, and I'm right here in Tampa, Florida.
Yeah, isn't that sweet? 2022, it's sweet.
So last week we had the culmination of probably one of our coolest events. We inspired students to create their own recipes, dishes with Voodoo Chef sauces and seasonings. We gave them one parameter. It had to be on a stick. And so, we get together, we meet, our team meets, and we could, like I said, could not have done this without Spider. Could not have done this without Lee. Could not have done this without Tracy. We could go on and on. All of our judges, everybody, the school sites. So we send the instructors who we send all this information to. We send all this stuff out, and man, the drive, the motivation that these students had, and the dishes they created. Holy cow!
So cool.
And we did something new this year. Spider came out early, and we took all my cell phones. I mean, pretty much everything. And what do you mean all your cell phones? Yeah. It's almost like a sickness. And we set up and we live streamed the entire event. Now Marie was home watching, and she goes, "There's a lot of dead air." I'm like, well, we had to set up the cameras and all this stuff, but constantly reflecting, constantly learning, growing. But
I'm Alton Browning it next year. Totally.
Right. When they started cooking, I almost wanted to just sit and watch the live stream because I could see all four, and it was amazing. And to watch their excitement and their pride.
Yeah.
I mean, just absolutely so cool.
Yeah.
That we're expanding to such a new arena to impact
competition in general is such an exciting element of being in the CTE or culinary family consumer sciences. There's a lot of options for competitions, and that really is a team in itself that you're working with. And sometimes it's someone that you know, sometimes it's not someone that you know, which is fun. But I was honestly freaking out the whole time watching it. The amount of screen time that these teams were getting, so deserved.
Absolutely.
From looking back 15 years when I did competitions, it's behind a closed door. No one really sees you. You don't have an element of someone cheering for you. They had
even in today's world, it's not happening.
It's so cool. It is, and I know you've said this before, but it is like our Friday Night Lights. You get to have people 100%. There repping your school colors, feeling like you're doing something, which you are. And that was so cool to me.
They were shouting and cheering. And, a lot of times we had the cameras muted. What's that?
Is that I've got goosebumps.
Yeah, exactly. I mean,
I love it.
A lot of times we had the cameras muted, just honestly, because you never know what I'm going to say. And they were cheering their teams on and yelling and screaming. My absolute favorite part, Spider just comes running up, and he's getting ready to run up right beside me, but he runs up on the other side of the computer, and he's looking over the computer, and he's like, your mics are on. And I'm like, I already muted them. I remembered Dabs was calling. She couldn't get through to you. I go, I know, all my phones are filming. I go, make sure she calls you from now on, because can't leave those mics on.
Can't leave the mics hot. Nope.
Yeah, I could just see you freaking out. Oh my God, he left the mics on. Oh my God.
Well, that was a second of it, but the majority of the time I was freaking out just because how cool it was that these kids were getting so much. The fact that all of the teams were showcased the entire competition.
The entire time.
The airtime, and you could see easily which team was which and who was who, and there were people commenting live, sitting at home in their living rooms commenting, go Durant, go the different teams. That was just such a new element that I have not seen at the high school culinary level, and it gets me hyped because they deserve that. They worked so hard on those creations.
You know, we were sitting at so my brother came to town, and we were sitting at Hooters talking about this, and we were talking about Voodoo Underground, and I'm like, hey, what do you think? Do you think this would be all right? I mean, do you think this would be cool? And he's like, I kind of dig it. And so we just started, chit chat. And I'm like, all right, so we have the basic blurb about, our industry and how many people we're going to be looking for. I go, but then, you think about this, our guys really don't have any spotlight, There was never a pep rally for culinary.
No.
We didn't have a pep rally.
And we went to nationals all the time.
All the time.
all the time.
Like earlier.
And we were big programs, and even if you're a small program, that's still
so let's throw some love Dabsy's way. We were the first and only national career academy for culinary. Yeah. So there's if you watched the Voodoo Chef podcast last week, only 73 American Master Chefs. There were less than 50 national career academies at the time. We were the first and only culinary, and that came about part of that project that I was working on, where Dabsy came in, and Dabsy took all the information and bottled it up and put together an amazing presentation that we submitted that helped us get that. Dabsy, you're a rock star. Could not have done that without you.
I still have bad dreams about losing those binders somehow. It's that ingrained in my...
As soon as you were done, I don't know if you realized we did take them down and have them all digitally produced so that we could never lose them.
I love it.
So we were talking with my brother, and we started talking. The underground came about because of this old, chefs would talk about, we want to do this. We want to do, I got the best shrimp and grits. No, you got the best shrimp. And then we'd all get together at a restaurant, and everybody would make their own shrimp and grits, hang out and eat and party. And then it was just an excuse, but it was about competing and creating and sharing. And so we wanted to do this. There's a TV show and an old school, reality. They called it a night. Hey, we're going to have a knife fight. We're going to chop it up and see who. Okay, great. Not really at the high school level, not calling it a knife fight. And so we came up with Voodoo Underground. And sitting at Hooters, hanging out one day, we came up with, the intro. We're not meeting at the bike racks after school. This isn't no dance off at the high school talent show. This is our Friday Night Lights. This is Voodoo Underground. And that's exactly what it is. They put their blood, heart, and soul into this. And, at the end of the first rounds, we gave them all feedback. And every single team took that feedback, added it to their plate, and brought back a better plate. I'm just, you can go watch it. You can watch the podcast about it. Yeah. You got to check it out. You can check that out at voodoochef.com, Voodoo Chef Facebook page. Go watch the live stream. Fast forward through the dead air and the pictures of the tables. Get to the kids. Watch what they're doing. Watch the excitement. Just amazing, amazing, amazing. And we are taking our culture now and building that throughout the county,
Yeah.
pushing that throughout the state. And it's not a task that is unobtainable or unachievable. You just have to, as an instructor, have the desire to push through it and do that.
Yeah.
All right, Dabsy,
Woo-woo.
little special podcast today. We all know I talk a lot of smack. Wouldn't be me if I didn't. But, I do got to give a big shout out to all my educators out there. I got all my mentors. I got some amazing teachers. Today is National Teacher Appreciation Day. And we can't just say teacher appreciation. We have to say educator appreciation day, because they come in all shapes, sizes, and forms. And I get up here and I talk a lot of smack about all educators. It's nothing but that. It's nothing but smack. Because to do what we do, it's a hard, hard job.
Yeah.
And I got nothing but love for every single one of you. And this is for you guys. This is for you.
Cheers.
I got through a 52-minute podcast without that. As he's got her sweet tea.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so we're going to close out something very unique. Normally, we would give a shout out to our educators, throw them that big toast, and move on. But we did something very cool this week in preparation of tonight. We put out posts on our podcast asking for people to tell us who their favorite educator was and why. No, I was not trolling for all the love that was thrown my way. But I've got nothing but love for everybody back. Debsy, you want to go first?
Yeah, I'll go first. We both reached out to our Facebook families and Instagram and all that jazz. So the first one is Melissa, and out in Land O'Lakes, and she wanted to talk about a very special teacher that was her daughter Alyssa's teacher. And it was Miss Alford, who taught the 2nd grade. And let me tell you, Alyssa is in her 20s now, so this this teacher definitely made a difference. If we're talking about her 15 years later, and she worked at Lake Myrtle Elementary School. So if you know a Mrs. Alford in Land O'Lakes, maybe you could share this with her. But Melissa wrote that she took a special interest in her students. She encouraged my daughter's love of reading and writing. She even recognized that my daughter was gifted and suggested that I have her tested, and in fact, she was. My daughter graduated from St. Leo University and is now a copy editor. Miss Alford will always be Alyssa's favorite teacher. So shout out, cheers to you, Mrs. Alford, 2nd grade, Lake Myrtle Elementary.
I'm getting the goosebumps as you read that, because oh my God, it just, those are things. And you talk about where she's at now, but the things I'm hearing is the seeing through all the things and looking at that student as an individual, not a class. And that's just super amazing. And it makes me think of a big shout out for one of my favorite teachers, Miss Jan Siegel, who saw a lot of the same in my daughter. When my daughter was in 1st grade, my daughter would cry. And Debsy, you were there.
Yeah.
My daughter would cry every day. And my wife would freak out. And Jan Siegel said, your daughter's bored. She's bored. And everything just progressed. And Jan Siegel, you're a rock star. Thanks for doing what you do, not only for my daughter, but for all the students in Hillsborough County schools that you touched. You're up, Dabsy.
All right. I'm going to Donna. I'm here. Donna Caldwell, and she wanted to talk about her favorite teacher, Mr. Colace. I feel like I've heard that name before. He was very supportive of me as my parents went through their divorce, and he was the reason I became a teacher. He was very humorous, but taught us so we all understood everything, which is amazing for someone to do in the classroom. So that's very cool. And I love when people are inspired to become teachers themselves. And high school, I'm guessing this is a high school class, but so many kids are going through a lot at home. So that's amazing.
Absolutely. And, you have to be able to connect with that. I know a lot of teachers who will just push through that. They'll just push through that and not even want to recognize it. but you have to be there and you have to make yourself available for that. Yes, I know it makes your jobs harder.
Yeah.
But if everything was easy, we'd all be doing it. John D, thank you for the love. That is too kind. I do see that. I do recognize it. You're amazing too. Thank you so much. I'm going to jump forward to Miss Brenda Panella Rouse. Yes, related to the Lou Panella. Pamela Campbell Peralta at Jefferson High School. She was my competitive speech coach, and needed and she needed confidence at that time. And you know what? I have to give a big shout out to Miss. I say I can't talk. Miss Pamela Peralta too. One of my mentors in doing what I do, teaching me so much and helping me develop into the educator that I am. Brenda had her as a teacher at Jefferson High School. I had her as the principal that brought me to Chamberlain High School. And she is one of a kind, nothing but love, Pam. I would not be who I am without you.
Love it. She was my high school principal at the beginning too, so very cool. Love it, love it, love it.
You got another one?
All right, I've got Jennifer, who is an AP now, right?
Yes, she is.
Mrs. Logan, AP Biology. She actually showed real enthusiasm for her subject and was always prepared and liked her students. Sometimes, liking your students is all it takes.
It makes it a lot easier.
Yeah.
But at the end of the day, guys, trust me, I go to a lot of restaurants and I'm their customer and they don't like me. They like my money. It's their job. And you know what? Don't fake it till you make it. Do it. Understand why people act the way they act. Try to find out, I don't like that kid. Why don't you like them? Because they're hard to teach. Do your damn job. All right, Debsy, I'm going to take the easy one here.
Yeah.
I'm going to take Dana Kress. He said his mom and dad, and it does all start at home. And then I'm going to take my brother, Matthew Youngs, who real simply said, your mom. But that has tended to be his post or his response on social media for about the past 3 weeks lately to everybody and anybody. Matt, you're working too much. Slow down. But you're right. Mom is one of the best teachers I've ever had. And I hope that wasn't sarcasm like on every other post. But she's a rock star and she taught us a lot of what we know. Dabsy, you're up.
I love it. Okay, I've got Chio Jose. And he said Helen Michelson. She was a band at West Tampa Middle School.
And this is so cool.
She always had so much confidence in me. She pre-purchased my superior medals for every solo contest, already expecting the results. And I was able to wear them immediately, unlike the others who had to wait for their teachers' directors to order them. I love it.
All right, I'm going to read the last one here, and this is not trying to be self-gratifying or anything, but it says a lot of the teaching philosophy that I believe, and it says that's easy. It's you. Why? Why it's so simple. You provide a platform for people to thrive. You help mold them into the people they would become in the future or today, as he puts it. Plus, you're the only teacher that made sure college or higher education was not only a possibility, but a reality. Guys, it's a lifelong journey. And if we're only preparing them for now in our classroom, we're really not doing justice as educators. We have to push through that. We have to treat people as we want them to be the best, just as we would in business. We don't want to create people to work for us. We want to create people who are going to think and grow and become the next leaders. And if we're only teaching them to be in our class, we're really not doing them justice. We have to make certain that we're pushing past our class and building people so that they'll be successful for the rest of their life, whether it's in our career field, in our classroom, or wherever. Otherwise, we're not doing our jobs as educators. Dabsy, nothing but much love. All my educators out there, this is for you.
We appreciate you.
Time.
We love it.
I love it too, Dabsy. But, you were talking about the podcast. Educators, I love the end of this podcast because I get to toast to you guys.
down the chalk. Took a little walk outside to where my friends from school will play. I don't know, maybe so. It's just another day. Hanging at the quick stop, grab a Slurpee and a Twix, I'm on my way. Crossing lady stops me, brings the lecture. Now, and the hell's your head? My mind can't help but figure the Alice and the finger, and I ran along with nothing more to say. It's alright, really tight, it's just another day.